नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय कोटिसूर्यसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वादात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। Pranams to our parents, pranams to Samasta Sadgurus, pranams to the Lord, pranams to all of you. Hari Om. Apologies for not having the class last week, some exigencies. So I have not seen any further queries or doubts in the group. And I'm sure that as we revise, as we hear more, read more, discuss more, I'm sure that more questions will come. And of course, all the topics which we are discussing are interrelated and would come up again when we take up the study of the Bhagavad Gita, the chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So after discussing Karma Yoga, so we told that this is the framework which is required. So we discussed about what is our goal, how to achieve that, who would help us to achieve that, and then we are now coming into the framework. So we'll discuss the framework of Varna Dharma and Ashrama Dharma, and then continuing from that, what is the process to be followed, right? So this is going to be the process part of the whole operations manual in terms of telling that how to do, right? So we always want, even in today, if you look at the instruction manual which we get when we buy any equipment or a car, so the main instruction manual is so big. So today, many of them have started printing that because it is available on the web or it is through the app. But some of them give like quick start, right? Because today we don't have the time. We are all impatient. We want to start off immediately. So most of the even like phones come pre-charged now. So what we are discussing is like a jump start in terms of a quick start sheet, which is telling that, okay, what should I do? Where should I start? Let me get the benefit immediately, tangible, right? So that's where we have discussed Karma Yoga. And today we'll discuss about Upasana Yoga or Samadhi Yoga. So this is basically in layman terms, it is discipline, right? Karma is about action, what to do, etc. Who should do what? Whereas Samadhi Yoga or Upasana Yoga is about discipline. Because whatever we do without a foundation, without a discipline, even taking our class as an example, there is a discipline that every Sunday morning, instead of sleeping for another couple of hours or doing something else, we have put ourselves into a routine, into a discipline of telling that, okay, let me be there for 1 hour and listen to this. Right? Time discipline. Right? So that's a discipline, an example. So what is the basis of this? What is there ultimately in the Tattva Bodha? It is the essence of the Ashtanga Yoga of sage Patanjali. Right? We would have heard about that, where he talks about 8 disciplines, starting from Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. These are the 8 disciplines. When we hear the term Upasana Yoga or Samadhi Yoga, the first thing always jumps to our mind is meditation, right? It's a very often used term now, sometimes misused or even abused term in terms of, or it is even one of the most high revenue grosser of commercialization of a Vedic concept from our culture, right? Where so many methodologies are talked about, different types of meditations are talked about, in terms of telling that, come, we will teach you meditation, this will take you there, take you here, etc. Yes, it has got a place in our tradition, in our culture, in our studies. But if you look at the Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyanam, or contemplation, there's no single translation for that actually, is only the seventh step. It is the seventh step of Ashtanga Yoga. So it is not an easy one, but it's not too difficult also, right? We will see examples of that. So it starts with yama. Yama means what are the don'ts? The first thing which is talked about is do not do X, Y, Z. Why? Because I always like this comparison with medicine. You go to a doctor with a problem, the first thing they will tell is do not do this, this, this. Do not eat this, this, this. Why? Because stopping or not doing what is not required or what we are not supposed to do is 50% of the job done. The foundation, right? Especially in Ayurveda, where you talk about in terms of telling that do not do this, cut down on this food, quality, quantity, etc., timing. Because if the foundation is not proper, because that causes a negative energy within the body and the mind. If that is not corrected, any amount of medicine, any amount of positivity which we are putting will not have the desired effect. Yes, it may still have some effect. It will not have the desired effect which we want. Therefore, in Ashtanga Yoga, we start with don'ts. Do not do this, this, this. We will discuss that in detail later. And that itself is a big subject by itself. Then comes niyama, means do what are you supposed to do. Then comes asana, which is posture, which is very, very important, right? Even in terms of a meditation class, they'll say first, sit erect, etc. Or even if you're sitting in going for a Carnatic music lesson, you will never sit on a chair and sing, right? Yes, modern fusion music, etc., may happen that way, sitting, standing, etc. But sitting on the floor has got its own effect with the right posture in terms of normalizing our body and the mind, including the breathing pattern. So that's why the fourth step is pranayama with respect to regulating the breathing, because breathing and the body and the mind are all interconnected. A simple example is that when we are agitated, angry, we will find that our breathing becomes shorter. Our breath is shorter. It is shallow. We breathe multiple times as compared to when we are in a relaxed state. Because the mind is agitated, the body requires more oxygen. Therefore, the breathing becomes much more erratic. So the reverse can also be done consciously. You regulate the breathing, therefore you can manage your mind, you can manage the body. That is what pranayama is about. And again, different methodologies are there. The fifth one is pratyahara, which means in terms of managing the senses. I'm carefully using the word managing because many times we hear the word controlling the senses. We cannot control the senses, right? Managing the senses in terms of voluntarily managing with our willpower to manage that in terms of what we eat, what we drink, what we see, where we go, etc. What we do, right? That is pratyahara, means withdrawal. Because the senses are always outward. That is the purpose of the senses. We cannot, that's why the senses in different ways, except the eyes which has got a lid, right? The other senses we cannot close. The nose, the ears, the skin, we cannot close them unless, physically we close them. So the purpose of the senses is to receive the signals for various purposes. For our own protection also, we need to receive those signals, right? So that is pratyahara in terms of how to manage those senses. Then the sixth step is dharana, which is concentration. Today, there are various programs which teaches us how to concentrate. Because one of the biggest problems which we are facing in today's world is attention deficit syndrome. Because of the signals, because of our smartphones, because they make us more dumb in terms of giving us signals, push notification. We don't want to go somewhere to search for an information, right? We find an easy way. That's why all these app notifications are based on human behavior. So that itself is a problem where our attention is divided. We are not able to focus. So yes, this is a challenge of the mind which exists. Therefore, dharana, concentration is the sixth step. And then the seventh step is dhyanam, which is contemplation. So actually, in terms of meditation, there's a quick definition is that you cannot do meditation. Though there are many people who would advocate and lure you in terms of even selling out your hard-earned money to say that I will teach you how to do meditation. In fact, once the previous 6 steps are done, meditation automatically happens. Meditation has to happen. Just like sleep. You say, let me teach you how to sleep. Right? So in sleep also, you will find that there's a preparation which is required. There's a conducive atmosphere. There is a winding down which is required. Even today, the smartphone also helps you to do that in terms of winding down. The light, the sound, the temperature, right? The comfort of the bed, etc., etc. So then sleep automatically happens. And then the 8th step is samadhi, which is yoga, which is union, right? So these are the 8 steps which we will see in detail. So the purpose of upasana yoga, again, upa-asana. Upanishad, we looked at this word. Upa means taking near, right? Upa-asana, sitting near what? Going more closer to the goal, using the body and the mind, because these are the vehicles which are given to us. Whether we like it or not, we need to use this vehicle to reach our goal. And the whole focus or the instruction which is given to us is in terms of moderation, right? In terms of moderation. And we'll find enough examples in our Shastras itself talking about moderation and how to do that. Upasana yoga also can be talked about in terms of channelizing. All of us are endowed with so much of power. whatever we see, whatever we experience is a creation of the human mind. It's mind boggling in terms of what is happening today. Whatever invention which is there, everything starts with a spark or an idea in the mind. That's why many times, if we look back, certain science fiction in terms of movies which were there, say 20 years back, something which was shown in those fictions are all become tangible today, have manifested today in terms of products or experiences. Because the mind can conceive only what can be done. And therefore, whatever the mind conceives, it's so powerful. The power of intent, the power of creation of the human mind is so powerful. So we talk about three powers which the human mind has got. Right? So one is known as Ichha Shakti, the power to desire something, the power to will for something. Right? The second one is Kriya Shakti. So again, you look at a goal. We desire, oh, I want to attend this class. I want to learn something new. Because of that desire and the strength of that desire, the priority which has been given to that desire, we manifest as action. That is Kriya Shakti. That is Kriya Shakti. We have to do, correct? We have to get up, we have to get ready, we have to have our equipments ready, we have to do. Just desiring for something will not make it happen. Either we have to do or somebody else has to do. An action is required. The third one is Jnana Shakti, which is the desire to know and the power to know. Right? Just because information, there is all the information is available out there in the world. So then why is it that it has not translated into knowledge? Information is there, but if it has to translate into understanding and then to knowledge, there is a Shakti which is required, which is Jnana Shakti. So in the Lalita Sahasranamam, the Devi Swarupam, one of the name of Devi is Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Swarupinye Namaha. Everything comes. All the stotras which we chant is actually full of Veda and Vedanta. Right? So we need to channelize this power which we have, which is an immense power. We need a discipline. Just compare it with a dam, a river which is flowing. How do we channelize the power of that particular water, the force of water which is there? So a dam is constructed, and then it is channelized. It is guided properly wherever we need it. Right? So in a similar fashion, so the dam, the water is being restrained, it is being managed, and then it is being led to the appropriate place to utilize that energy. So similarly, the power of the mind also has to be, some restraint is required, and then it has to be managed, and then it has to be channelized and directed to the right place. Now, how do we do this? So the first one is physical discipline, right? So again, a classic example is in the army. Every day they have to get up, a fixed time, they do exercises, etc., etc. And if some of them start questioning, when am I going to use this? Because when you really need it, if you have not been disciplined, or even take sports, before actually playing that particular sport, there's so much of discipline which is required. You have to continue that. Or you take music, the sadhagam which is required, the practice which is required. We see a musician performing on the stage for 1 hour or 2 hours, but how many hundreds of hours of practice would have gone into that particular performance, and the continuous practice which is required. So physical discipline is extremely important, because health is wealth. Our physical body is required to be in a fit condition to achieve our goals, whatever goals. Even we say we want to sit and listen to a class, unless our body is physically fit, we would not be able to focus on the real goal and achieve what we want. So there, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, ashtanga yoga are all focusing on the physical discipline, kaigam. So you will find enough slokas which is there in our Vedas itself, where in the Shanti mantras talk about asking for physical health. Om Badram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha Badram Pashyemakshabhyajatraha Tirairangai Stuštuvagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu. Any Shanti mantra which you see, ask for, please give me physical health so that it will help me. Apyayantu mamangani vak prana chakshu shrotra madho balamindriyani cha sarvani. All these are from the Upanishad. Right? So we should not neglect physical health. Extremely important. Whichever goal we want to achieve, physical health is important. There, one of the aspects is ahara. Now again, ahara is loosely translated into only food. The physical food and drinks is considered, or we relate it as ahara, but the literal meaning of ahara is all inputs. All inputs to the body and the mind is ahara. So that is where, in terms of what we see, what we hear, what we smell, is also ahara. Right? So even in Natya Shastra, they say yatho hastat tado drishti tado manaha, yatho manaha tado bhava, yatho bhava tado rasa. So there is a sequence which happens. What we think, we will start doing. What we do, ultimately becomes a habit. There is a result which comes. It starts feeding back. It becomes a habit. It becomes our character. It becomes our destiny. So the whole idea here is to understand this correlation and reverse the whole process and use it to our advantage. That's all. It is not to take away the fun from life in terms of telling them, please, go become a sage and ascetic right now. No, it is in terms of helping us to channelize our energy, to utilize for what? Go back to lesson 1, for our own goals. If we have set our goal in terms of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, all these things are going to help us achieve that. So ahara, that's another major discipline. Even about food, it is talked in the Bhagavad Gita. We see that in detail, because the body is a means for all the other goals. The second most important discipline is verbal discipline. And because this is something which doesn't cost the person who is talking, right, except their energy and of course time. So therefore our Shastras gives a lot of importance to verbal discipline, including quantity of speech as well as the quality of speech. So Bhagavad Gita, Lord himself says that anudvekakaram vakyam satyam priyam hitam. You will find in management books and expounded, and we will pay money to buy this and follow that. It's from the Bhagavad Gita. The quality of speech. Anudvegakaram. Udvegakaram means which agitates the other person, the person who's listening. They say no. It's a complete no. Satyam. It has to be the truth. Priyam. It has to be pleasant. Hitam, which is useful. To whom? Useful to the person who is listening, useful to the person who is talking, who is conveying that message. Right? So this is the discipline of speech. Very difficult. It's very difficult. But It has to be done because that is the starting point. So that is why even Mauna Vratam is considered in terms of a yajna, in terms of a vratam which is there, in terms of a discipline which has to be followed. Mauna Vratam is recommended so that you perforce deliberately you are silent. But there again, there are different types of Mauna Vratam. Just not talking verbally is one kind of Mauna Vratam, but there is the real Mauna Vratam is not even thinking. Because today's Mauna Vratam, physically you can stop talking, but you can still text somebody, right? Communication can still continue. So therefore, the real Mauna Vratam is in terms of not even communicating with any of the media. Then comes sensory discipline. So we talked about pratyahara in Ashtanga Yoga in terms of managing the senses. So there is a discipline which is required. Then to some extent we say you have to control your senses, but actually in terms of we need to manage our senses. Because the moment you try to control, just like water, you try to control that water, it will burst out from somewhere because we are not able to fathom the power of that water. The force of that water, the energy which is there, it will breach the dam somewhere else if we do not manage it properly. So you have to stop the water, but at the same time start diverting that water for useful purpose. The same thing with the mind. The mind, that's why the mind is always referred to as a monkey, because that is the character of the mind. We cannot change it. So do not try to control the mind, we say. Right? So we can only channelize it in terms of utilizing the power of that mind. That is where japa is recommended. Why japa is recommended? So that the mind is occupied. Yes, when you need it, you utilize for what you require to study something, to think about something, to solve a problem. But when it is not there, the moment it is idle, that's why we say that an idle mind is a devil's workshop, because the mind will immediately jump to something. And by nature, there is all the property of the mind is to latch on to something negative, whether it is negative news or violence, etc., etc. Why it sells even in news? Because the mind easily attaches and latches onto negativity. So to manage that, there are disciplines which are given. How to get back to that, right? It's like that a person who prayed and the genie appeared, but the genie said, there's only one condition. I will do whatever you say. I will get whatever you want. But the moment I am idle, I will come and eat you. Right? So this guy asked for everything. He said, bring me wealth, bring me food, bring me this, etc., etc. Within 15 minutes, he was exhausted with options. So then the genie started chasing him. And then somebody said, okay, there is an idea. First tell the genie to construct a huge pole, which is 10 kilometers long, and tell it to go up and down. And when you need the genie, call the genie and say, okay, do this now, and then again climb on the pole. Going up and down the pole is japa. It is discipline. It is repetition. That is why in japa there is repetition in terms of giving a mantra for japa. Mananat trayate. That's the derivation of mantra. So that when we need it, we use it to achieve our goals, whatever we want to do. But when we do not need it, instead of allowing to drift and then attack us and put us in a negative situation, use japa in terms of managing the mind. Right? So different disciplines, again, going to a temple regularly, attending a satsanga, whether it is bhajans or a chanting, having a discipline of that. All those things are ultimately the purpose is in terms of channelizing the mind. So the next one is the discipline of the mind. So this is more on the sensory discipline. And then we come, specifically about discipline of the mind, where there are 4 types of meditation, if you want to call that way, are talked about. So the first one is relaxation meditation, right? To achieve anything, even to think clearly, we need to relax. That's why even a warm-up is suggested before and a cooling down after doing a workout or a sports, etc. Because the mind or body has to be relaxed at all levels. So that is where a comfortable posture, a comfortable clothing, a comfortable place. That's why it's always recommended that use a quiet place and use the same place. Even the asana, the mat or something which we use, it's always recommended that keep it only specifically for that purpose. Just like the bed. So in our tradition, if you really see, the bed has to be folded immediately after you get up. And it is a bed which is personal to you. It's not supposed to be used by somebody else. So similarly in meditation also, the place or even in an office, why there is a separate cabin which is given to the CEO? It is for the position, it's not for the person, because there is a sanctity, there is a discipline, there is a power of repetition which comes where you're preparing that place day in and day out, where that energy is channelized. Right? So that comes in terms of relaxation. The second part of meditation is concentration. So various methods are given in terms of using a physical object, a flame, a lamp, or whatever it is in terms of, so that because from the physical you lead into the mind. Because the mind can easily attach to something which is physical. The moment you say think about a flame, you will start thinking about it, but within few seconds the mind will go into related aspects. Oh, this flame is from the candle. Oh, this candle, where did we see that, etc., etc. Right? So it will keep jumping. Third methodology of meditation is called expansion meditation. In terms of understanding who we really are, right? If you really see, so there are a couple of good animations which are available. Today it must be much more sophisticated in terms of technology. In terms of where we are, you just imagine that, especially when we are faced with a difficulty or a problem or a challenge, we think that this is the end of the world, because we look at ourselves as the center of the world, right? But the moment we think, where are we? Even physically, you are sitting in a room, you are sitting in a building, you are sitting in a place, in an area, in a town. You keep expanding it into the universe, we will find that our problem, starts dissipating. It's like telling that, okay, make this line smaller. How do you make a line smaller without cutting it, without erasing it? Is being a bigger line next to it, right? So it is actually managing your issues or challenges or our current state, where we think that we are small, where we think that only we have problems, we have challenges, etc., etc., in terms of diminishing the faculty of the mind or the power of the mind by those small thoughts, in terms of telling that, yes, these problems are insignificant, including me, what I consider as myself. In the whole scheme of things of this universe, it is insignificant. So therefore, this is in terms of accepting what it is. So again, going back to the Karma Yoga principle in terms of the Prasada Buddhi, in terms of, yes, accepting my situation as it is, and then moving on from there. Now that's extremely important, because without that, the challenge or the negative thinking, which will always cloud our ability to think forward. The fourth one is called value meditation. in terms of deliberately selecting a value, and then, so this comes when we expand the niyama and yama, we will find there are 5 each there in terms of the 5 do's and the 5 don'ts, where we can take it as a discipline. Like there is a theme of the month, people promote. So this month is fitness month, for example. Or in the offices also, you'll find certain themes which are promoted to get people into a routine, into a discipline. Like you have got different months with the upavasa which is prescribed. So this particular month is starting. So do this, don't do this. Because if you say every day do this or don't do this, the mind will not accept it. So that is why the prescription even of the tapas which is there in our culture in terms of telling a 21-day discipline or a 41-day discipline. Why? Because the mind is a slave of repetition, the body is a slave of repetition, and it requires that many number of days, certain either 21 days to latch on to a new habit or 41 days to get rid of a habit or a practice which we do not want to be there. So you could select a value and say that, okay, this month, this is the theme for me. I will practice Satyam. So deliberately looking at that, practicing, looking at ways, analyzing, appraising what we do, and then moving on from there. So these are 4 preparatory stages of meditation. And the real meditation comes, the dhyanam is contemplation, is always, the real dhyanam is always Vedantic meditation. It may sound a very heavy term, but it is in terms of our ultimate goal of moksha. It is the assimilatory meditation which will help us there in terms of meditating on the Mahavakyas. So there are Mahavakyas in the Upanishads, right? Like Aham Brahmasmi is one of them, right? Tattvamasi is another one. So in terms of understanding, so Tattvamasi is actually the essence of Bhagavad Gita comes, or we can understand Tattvamasi from the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, which we will be looking at. So ultimately, the purpose of meditation, yes, we start with asana, pranayama, etc., because those are preparatory stages. But the problem or the challenge which we face today is that the moment we start that, we feel good in terms of physical well-being, mental well-being, and we think that that is the goal. And we forget the ultimate goal of moksha. This happens with everything, right? Even in a journey, we latch on to the journey rather than sometimes we even forget what the destination was. Yes, we need money in terms of artha. Goal is there because money as a means, it is a means for something else. But during that journey, our mind can get attached to money as a goal, and then we tend to forget what is our ultimate goal. We tend to even forget that we can utilize that money to achieve our other goals, because then money becomes the goal, only goal. So the whole purpose of any of these disciplines is to integrate. Integrate what? At all the 3 levels in terms of manasam, vachikam, and kayikam. Right? That's why at the end of any of the rituals, we say kayena vacha manasendriyarva. Why? Because it is accepted that we would have done the puja also without integrating all these 3. It is always a challenge. So at the end of the puja, we say kayena vacha manasa indriyarva buddhi atmanava prakrite swabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai, O Lord Narayana Yeti samarpayami. Right? Or the prayer which we chant at night and we encourage children also to do right from beginning is Karacharana Kritam Vak Kayajam karmajam va sravana nayanajam va manasam va paradham vihitam avihitam va sarvam etat kshamasva. Certain things, omissions and commissions, exactly that. Certain things was deliberately done, certain things were done without knowing the implication, or that is how my mind is, or that's how the practice was. They say, oh, that is my nature. So at least chanting all these things, helps us to focus. We might be chanting even without knowing the meaning. That is fine as a starting point. That is absolutely fine. But it helps us in terms of getting back to understanding why we do this, why we do not do this. So the whole purpose is in terms of integrating. Otherwise, we will find that there are many actions which we do, including we may give the excuse of telling that, oh, this is part of my job, etc., etc. But ultimately, we find that the moment it creates a disconnect between what our values are, what our ideals are, what we think what we should do versus what we speak versus what we do, if there's a disconnect, it will create an imbalance in the body and mind. It will create. That's why many times, even deliberately, sometimes if we have to lie on certain things, we do not practice satyam deliberately, it will disturb our mind, which will in turn disturb the body. So therefore, the whole idea here is to how to align, how to synchronize our mind, from that the speech and the body. Because without this synchronization, the ultimate goal of moksha, yes, we may do. Yes, even studying this is good. It's a preparatory step which is there. But if the assimilation has to happen, just like food, the food has to be digested. What is the purpose of food ultimately? There is a physical energy which is needed, but the real purpose of food is feeding the mind. That's why we say you are what you eat. Why? Because the real purpose of the mind, the prana, food is a very big topic. The prana, Shakti, which is there, that is what is the real purpose of food. That is the real purpose. That is why yogis can survive without physical gross food for a long time. It is possible because they derive the prana from air itself. That's a real way in terms of getting the prana. But because of all the negativity which is there is so much of effort the body has to do. That's why, oh, let me go for a detox. Why? If you have been eating the right thing or always listening and hearing or seeing the right thing, why do you need a detox? You don't need a detox. So because toxins are there, knowingly, unknowingly, toxins are entering the body. So there is a requirement for that. Right? So even chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita says, Yuktahara viharasya, Yukta cheshtasya karmasu, Yukta swapna avabodhasya, Yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Yukta means moderation in everything what we do. So the whole purpose is that synchronization so that it helps us. So we have got a very healthy body, we've got a healthy mind to achieve our goals. Couple of more aspects we can discuss, but before that, any questions here, whether it's on karma yoga or on upasana yoga? You can unmute and speak, or you can type.
Hari Om Krishnanji, thank you so much for giving the Upasana Yoga. Krishnanji, I have a question. You were talking about the japa, isn't it? So, are we prescribed to do the japa on? Yes, you prescribe the same place, same mat, everything's fine. But timing also is prescribed. Is it the japa has to do in certain timings, or in your ideal time, everything you can do your japa?
Good questions. So there are two types there. One is there is a japa which is prescribed as per your nitya karma. So in Sandhya Vandanam, the Gayatri mantra which is given, right? So that is a mantra which there is a repetition which is recommended. So those things have to be followed in the prescribed timing. So that is Sandhya, Pratha Sandhya, Madhyanam, and Sayam Sandhya. So that is a prescriptive one based on your ashrama which is there and the varna. But the other types of japas in terms of getting into a discipline is something which can be done anytime. Right? So just like the example which I gave of the monkey or the genie which is there, it is there in terms of helping me, because after a certain point of time you will not require the japa. The japa is only to help you to come to a phase where you are channelizing the energy of the mind in the right direction. Right? So initial stages you may require more of it. That's why the japa mala is used. Why the japa mala? It is not for counting. Yes, we say that yes, by that of 54 beats or 108 beats to count, because you are given a target. The moment there is a target, the mind will want to achieve it. Right? So even in Gayatri Mantra, in Sandhya Vandanam, there is a target which is given in terms of numbers. It's not infinite. So the beads are actually for the physical sense, so that because the mind will immediately wander, but the physical bead will help you to get back. That is the real purpose of the Japamala which is there. So to answer your question, Jagadish, is in terms of Nitya Karma, yes, that has to be in terms of specific time. Or if you have taken a Diksha, a Mantra Diksha, and you are following that, it has to be specific time, etc., with the proper discipline. Whereas the other general kind of a japa which is there is in terms of just to manage the mind, it can be any time. Any other questions on that?
Thank you, Krishnanji. Then one more main question is how to manage any secret any formula is there to how to manage the mind. I know that when we sit doing a japa, that time only a lot of thinking happens. I mean, other thoughts are coming. Till that time doesn't come. When we sit for a meditation, so many, any small suggestion can be given to concentrate on the japa.
So that is why dharana, you have to first practice dharana. So train the mind to concentrate and focus first. Right? So that is why it can be your Ishta Devata, which is there, you are sitting in a puja room in front of that particular Lord's picture or idol which you have. Or even, so that is why even the Deepa Dhyanam is prescribed in terms of a flame which is there. So dharana is very, very important. As we saw in Ashtanga Yoga also, in terms of the sixth step is in terms of first practice concentration. We need a physical object to concentrate initially. And then only move into japa in terms of the mind. There also in japam, which is more powerful? Is it physical chanting, which is more powerful, or chanting in the mind, which is more powerful? Can I have some answers?
Chanting in the mind, yes.
Why? Physical one, you are also...
Look, what my feeling is physical mind, yes. I mean, physical chanting, yes, you will now normally concentrate. But when you do it in your mind, So, as you say, mind always wavers, jumps to make the mind to, to concentrate on a japa. That is more powerful, I think, isn't it?
Any other views? I'm checking the concentration of everybody. So
Subramaniam.
yeah.
As for I have practiced, when we chant open mouth and when we chant, we are able to hear the voice again back to ourselves. And so after practicing for some years or some time, it is better. I start with open mouth chanting, and then now I am chanting in my mental level. Thank you, sir.
Right. So even for children, we say, please read loud, right? Then only you learn faster. And yes, that is true. For learning, I would say you have to learn by heart. What does that mean? Because there is a repetition which is required so that that gets embedded into our mind. But we would have experienced, if we are chanting, say, Vishnu Sahasranamam every day, if we are physically chanting it, only physically chanting it, we would be chanting it, but our mind will be somewhere else. We'll be multitasking, right? Or switch tasking. Physically, we are chanting. Anybody else listening from another room will say that we are doing only chanting, but our mind could be somewhere else and we could be doing something else. So there is no integration which happens. Is it good or bad? Yes, it does have some positive effect. At least there's a physical chanting which is going on. However, the moment we switch to mental chanting only in the mind, what happens is that you cannot do anything else. You cannot think anything else. So that is why japa is given in terms of do it only manasam. And one more, the japam, which is the mantra which is given as a diksha, is a secret. Yes, the text of that is available for anybody and everybody. Gayatri Mantra text is available for anybody. But why in the process of Upanayanam, during Brahmopadesham, why there is a cover which is put when the Mantra Upadesham is being done? The boy may be knowing the Gayatri Mantra already by heart, but it is the process, which is there is an amount of energy, there is an amount of secrecy which is involved in mantra. That is, it is manana trayate. Mantra is mananam, only in the mind. That is why Gayatri Mantra, even when we are chanting as part of Sandhya Vandanam, it should not be chanted loud. It has to be only in the mind. In certain pujas also, you would have found that, especially during Rudram, especially in Rudram, there are certain Gayatri mantras which comes in between. At that time, you will find that they suddenly mute. They will chant in the mind only. Especially that which is given by Diksha. Any other Diksha also, if a mantra has been given, it can be just Hare Rama, Hare Krishna given as a mantra, but when you are chanting it as a mantra, as received from a guru, it has to be only in the mind, because then only it will have the desired effect, the desired power. So when we do only in the mind, we are fully focused, and therefore you get double benefit. One, first of all, you get the benefit of the lineage. You are connected to your guru through that mantra, through the Guru Parampara. That's why we always give salutation to the complete Guru Parampara, because the link is through these mantras and teachings which has come to us. And the second is the benefit of my own mind, and then into the physical aspect, the benefit which comes is the channelization of the energy. So coming back to your question, Shekharji, is that the only way is to start physical, mantra, etc., etc., again, discipline in terms of timing, and then move slowly into the mind level, and never try to control the mind in terms of telling that, and never feel guilty about, oh, I started doing meditation, but I ended up planning for my office work the next day or my personal work. Let it happen. right? So that's why there's one form of meditation, they'll say that just observe your thoughts, right? But for that also we have to keep pulling back ourselves, because your thoughts are somewhere, and then we say we become the sakshi, the observer of that. So different disciplines we have to start slowly, and we will look at that. Any other questions? So one more related aspect on a daily life we would have heard is about stress management, right? Anger management. So there are programs where you enroll to a course, pay money for all this, etc. So there again, if you see the usage of word, they never teach you stress control. They never teach you anger control, right? They say stress management, because stress is a natural product of our mind and then manifests in the body also, because stress is required. There is, of course, there is good stress and bad. Just like anything else, there is good and bad. Anger, that venting has to be there. That's the first response. If anybody says that I've never got angry, so either they have not realized that they have been angry. Mostly it is the other person who will tell whether you have been angry or not, correct? Who have been interacting with you. Because that's a natural response of the mind. But the management is required in terms of what do you do as your next thought after you got angry. That is where these techniques come in terms of telling them, yes, there is a trigger. I got angry. Yeah, I'm rushing to a place, but there's somebody who's stopping me. There is a traffic jam, etc. I get angry. But the next step in terms of what is my response to that anger? How do I respond to that particular trigger which is there, which is causing this sense of anger in me, this feeling of anger in me? That is where these disciplines come in. So that is where management, whether it is stress. So if I'm able to recognize what is the trigger of the stress, when am I getting stressed, etc., how do I manage and channelize that energy in the right direction, is where all these disciplines help us. Right? Very good. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, we can conclude for today.
Hello, sir. Can group meditation will help? Can we sit together for 15-20 minutes, a few people, and do that?
The real purport of meditation is for the self, right? So,
Yes.
so though to get into the discipline, the satsanga, again, that's a very good point. What is the purpose of satsanga? Why do we need to get together? To do a chanting, to do a puja? Why do we invite people in terms of? Because there is a power of numbers. There is a power of numbers in terms of physical, in terms of the mental energy, which is channelized for that particular goal, where everybody is coming for a common goal. There is a channelization of energy which happens. But ultimately, so as a starting point, yes, it is good to do that, to get into that discipline. But the real purpose of meditation is for the self, for channelizing our own Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Jnana Shakti. And therefore, irrespective of a group of 10 or 100 where we are sitting, unless I am able to get into that state properly, it will not give the desired effect for me. Right? For japa, yes. That is why even prescribed numbers are there for japam in terms of group chanting which is there. Whether you take for Rudram, Maharudram, Madirudram, etc., that there are numbers which are prescribed in multiples of 11 because there is a power for that. But meditation, the real dhyanam, ultimately is something which is for myself, for my mind, for my body, and that has to happen even when I am alone. Right?
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Hari Om. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
Hari Om Krishnanji, thank you.